everyone, Princess Sarissa back, and when we last left off, the Castle Karnak had just exploded, and so did the wall blocking off the ancient library. But before we go back into town and talk with everyone, I want to come in here to the fire ship, and we find Sid, who's pretty depressed. He's blaming himself for everything that happened. So even though the Queen kind of said that there's an evil spirit who's trying to break the crystals, and it's not necessarily all the amplification machine's fault. So, much like the fire that disappeared in the castle when the crystal exploded, the fire here in the town has also disappeared. So, we were able to get some more treasure. Well, actually, one more piece of treasure that was blocked off earlier. Also, a lot of the characters' dialogue has changed, and we have a new weapon seller here. We're going to buy 2 of these kunai knives for ninja, the class we're going to change to. The whip is for Beastmaster. The spear is for a Dragoon class that we won't have access to until the Earth Crystal. And then the bell is for the Geomancer class that we have access to, but we can't use that class because we're limited to just ninjas from the Fire Crystal. There were 5 shards of the Fire Crystal that broke off. We were only able to get 3 of them. 2 will get later, but most importantly, we ended up getting the one that we are able to use, the ninja. The ninja, for the most part, is almost like an upgraded monk. Like the monk, they can attack with both hands, but instead of using their fists, they use weapons. So they dual-equip weapons. Like the monk, they also are somewhat glass cannony. They can only use light armor. But some of their weapons, like that boomerang we got, will allow them to attack from the back row without taking a negative penalty. So that could increase their survivability a little bit. Instead of their kick command, the ninjas have a throw command, and they can single target throw like shurikens, or they can multi-target like the kick command with elemental scrolls. So the throw is a much better ability than kick. So, because it can be used against bosses using shurikens for large single target damage, or it can be used against large groups of enemies like kick, but you can exploit elemental weaknesses by throwing like fire scrolls, ice scrolls, lightning scrolls. So yeah, for the most part, they're basically an upgraded monk. At really high levels though, monk might be a little bit better because right now, they're going to have a little bit better strength than the monk because they're getting a lot of attack power from weapons. But eventually the weapons will hit a static point where they won't be getting any better, but the monk's attack will still be getting better with levels. So, basically they have a better, monks probably have a better early game and a better super late game. Ninjas have the better early mid, and early late games. So, but it's okay. We're gonna have to use monk and ninja from now on. So we're always gonna see a monk. The only thing that makes them a little bit more glass cannony, the ninjas, than the monk is they have much lower hit points and hit point growth than the monk. So we'll see that we still have Faris in the monk job, and we'll notice just how much more hit points Faris has than both RASAR and Galuf, who are now ninjas. But yeah, those I mentioned earlier, the fire is gone because the fire crystal is gone, and now this access to this barrel and a fire rod is available. So, honey. Now we saw Sid there. He's in the pub. He's still depressed. He doesn't want anyone to talk to. So we got to find a way to get him out of his funk. And we'll find a way to get him out of his funk by going toward the ancient library. But before we head to the ancient library, let's go stop and talk with the Queen. I mentioned a few episodes ago that there's that empty room up in the inn here. Well, that's where the Queen is now. She's being taken care of by some of her loyal soldiers. And she just gives a little bit of background on some stuff. She's still delirious from her possession. And she further expands on what she mentioned with the fire crystal, that there's some evil darkness that's out there. So it's not just Sid's fault that his machines are breaking the crystals. There's also some unknown darkness that's working behind the scenes to break the crystals. So we'll eventually learn more of that. But like I said, the story just comes out little piecemeal by piecemeal. So Karnak Castle exploded. Also exploded part of the wall there, which was blocking off the library that the Queen didn't want to hear from the scholars who were telling her to shut the crystal amplifying machine off. Now, one of the scholars in Karnak, though, mentioned that there's a really difficult enemy here in the desert, the Dorma Chimera. And basically, if you encounter an enemy in the desert, it's going to be this one. And he's really tough. We got lucky there because we got a preemptive strike. Ninjas have an increased chance to have a preemptive strike. And another good thing about the ninjas is if they have a shuriken, they can take out these guys in one hit with a shuriken. Now, that battle looked pretty easy there, but it's always easy because I got the preemptive strike. If you don't have a preemptive strike, usually that Dome Chimera will attack you first, and its main attack is Aqua Breath, which is a all-party hitting water spell. It does a lot of damage. You can pretty much knock out, wipe out a party. So, it's a good blue magic spell to use if you're using blue mages. But like I said, you might have to gain some levels to be able to survive it. So we have the final two enemies that we can meet in the overworld here around this area, the Silent Bee, and then we have the Mythal Dragon here. Both of them are flying enemies, so if you have Oath magic ain't going to really deal too much damage to them. So we don't have Oath Elemental right now, though. But you might have noticed that when Galuf threw his boomerang, it did a lot more damage than his knife. That's because the boomerang doesn't suffer ill effects from the back row. It's a back row weapon. So if you're filling out your bestiary, you want to meet those enemies before you head into this ancient library, because you get a free healing point in the ancient library. So that's nice. And much like all other locations we've been to so far, this one is being overrun by monsters. So, but only the lower stacks of the book. So for now, we can just talk with some of these scholars and learn a little bit about stuff. The healing pot is there, but before we get the healing pot, we have a battle outside here. So we learn about that some books are sometimes possessed, and there used to be an Esper called a Freet that burned the possessed books, but now something happened to a Freet. So we have our first possessed book here. Like the steamship, we have 4 new types of enemies in this dungeon. They're basically page numbers. So page 32, then they double 64, 128, and then 256. Now, one of the first books that we looked at here on the roof mentioned about level 5 death. That's why I checked on my character's levels before I came in here. Some of these page numbers use a blue magic spell called level 5 death. And basically what that does is it defeats any character who has a level at a multiple of 5. So, if you're like level 15 or 20, you might want to go out and gain a level or two so that you're not at that multiple level. I'm level 19, so I'm safe, and I'm far enough away from level 20 that I won't gain enough experience in this dungeon to put me at level 20, so I don't have to worry about level 5 death. Now, if you're having a blue mage, it's a really good blue magic spell to pick up, because a lot of enemies toward the end of the game have levels multiple of 5, and the spell's pretty cheap for how powerful it can be, probably because of the restriction it has. It only works on characters with multiple level 5. So if you have a blue mage, you might want to have just your blue mage character be a multiple level 5, get hit by the spell, then you can have your other characters who were missed by the spell revive your blue mage so that it learns it by the end of the battle. So, we just get some more background here that the crystals used to be more powerful. That's why Sid created the amplification machine. And there's an old book there that is missing half of it. So maybe we'll find the other half in the basement here that we're going to go look through. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not promising anything. So we're going to head here into the stack and the dungeon of the area. But first, let's look up about little Marie here. Have a little story. And she's, like I said, the text there says, she was diagnosed with a fractured spine, and even though doctors said that she should be euthanized, rabbit and small animal rescues decided that she was worth saving, and so they did a lot of physical therapy with her, laser treatment and acupuncture, and she eventually had a very good life. And we'll learn more about that story at the end of the video. But for now, let's hop back into this area here. Now we got kind of these little like maze type areas where we gotta hit different sections of the stacks to get them to move around to allow us to progress in the level. Usually it's at the end of a section, or like by this bookshelf up here, you see a little dot on the ground, and you just want to touch that dot and that'll move the bookshelves around. Another aspect of this is you get these little dark areas, but it's not too mazy, so even though your vision is limited, it's not like you have a massive maze you gotta go through. The limited vision doesn't really hurt too much. So I'm going to sneak out here, and here we're going to have our first little section where we gotta have a little Y fork, I guess you can say. So if we try to go this way, which is the way we need to go, we have this bookshelf here that will block our passage. So we're going to force the detour around through this secret passageway in the bookshelf here. We climb the ladder, hit those books, and they fall away. We do the same up here, and we get to this possessed book. And this book is apparently been bound, has a Freet bound in it. We were told earlier by our scholar that a Freet was a good spirit who used to burn evil books. So we can definitely use his power. Like Shiva, he is an Esper, and he will join our cause if we defeat him. He is weak to ice, being fire. So you could, with Lena, just break a rod and probably almost take him out in 1 or 2 hits. But we're just going to go with the long way here. We'll use the Shiva summon. I will, though, make sure that I have a frost rod equipped. One of the bonuses of rods is they increase the damage of the spells that they are. So like frost rod will increase the damage that ice-based spells use, whether they're cast via black magic, like Ice 1, Ice 2, Ice 3, or through a summon magic, like a Freet summon. So whenever we want to cast the Freet summon after we gain a Freet here, we want to make sure that Lena will be equipped with a fire rod, because that'll increase the damage that a Freet will do. So, but Freet's not too tough. He has that blaze attack, but blaze only does a percentage of your hit points. I think it does a fourth of your max hit points. So as long as you're like half the hit points or above, blaze won't defeat you right off the bat. So but you will have to heal afterwards. So we got a fire scroll there. That's a ninja throwing weapon. Basically does the equivalent of a level 2 elemental damage. And we'll see just how powerful it is a little bit later when we fight the main boss of this area. We'll end up throwing it. So heal ourselves up. Here you can see the difference in hit points there from between Galuf and Faris and RASAR. Monks get a lot more hit points. So, but now we have a Freet. We were told earlier that a Freet is, is a good guy, and he, took care of possessed books. Well, we have a possessed bookshelf here. So now that we got a Freet is going to allow us to get past this bookshelf. Now, when we fight these enemies, these page numbers, they can be kind of annoying because you never know how long the battle's going to last. You might have to fight 1 or 2 pages and then the battle will end, or sometimes you might get stuck in a battle like this one here where you end up fighting a whole bunch of these page numbers. The only good thing is, all the page numbers share the common weakness of fire. So like say you're using a black magician and you're getting ready to cast a fire spell on one of these enemies, and another one of your characters, like your monk or your ninja or your knight, hits the page and causes it to change from, like, say, 256 to 128, and then your fire spell will go off. It'll still hit for the weakness of the other pages, because they all share that common weakness, so it's not like some other Final Fantasies. I'm thinking of, like, the 4th Fiend fight in the Giant of Babylon, Final Fantasy 4. You might be casting elemental weakness, and then the enemy will shift to a different elemental weakness, causing you to potentially heal or not do a lot of damage, so. But even though it's a long battle here, it allows us to see all the different pages. So after this, we won't have to look at any more battles. We can just off-screen them. So yeah, there's only 4 enemies in here. Pages 32, 64, 128, and 256. So, boink, but yeah, we got a freak there. Now the bookshelf will let us pass. And it's an often missed thing here, but there's a little passageway there by that ladder. So we want to go through there because we get a ninja suit, which is an upgraded armor for our ninja. We're going to give it to RASAR because he's in the front row. Galif is already getting some defensive benefit, half damage physical for being in the back row, so he don't need it as much, so definitely give it to RASAR because he's stuck in the front row because he only has the knives. He doesn't have one of those back row attack weapons. So you have a little dead end there. We're going to have another little dead end earlier, but just showing off where all the different things go, so we're going to head over this way, and we're going to ignore the passageway to the right here because we want to head down a little bit further, get another treasure chest, and then we're going to head over, and this is the way we want to go. And we're going to end up in another book stack maze here, where we got to maneuver around to shift shelves around to make our way forward. We're just going to climb this little ladder here, hit the bookshelf, and that'll shift. To the south there is just a dead end, but we want to take out that book, and that takes us to a save point here. I'm just going to turn around and show off that dead end. But each time you go through this area, you're going to have to refight that boss. And unfortunately, yeah, that dead end it's real short, so I didn't get to see it with the transition screen there. But I'll show you where that dead end leads. But yeah, you don't have to worry about doing that. So we're going to heal ourselves up here in the tent, because we got a boss here coming up. Make sure we save our game, so that if something goes bad, we restart right there. And that dead end just takes us out to that little porch that we're right above to the north there. So here we are in the boss's room. We have this like person up there reading the books. We think that's Mid, but we don't know yet. But he is so engrossed in his reading his books that he doesn't even notice that we arrived in the thing, and he doesn't even hear this fight that we're going off here. The boss, Biblos. So he's a little bit stronger than a Freed, 600 more hit points. He has a fire weakness, so we'll see how much damage this flame scroll does. Yeah, about a third of his life. We could probably take him out with just breaking a fire rod now at this point, but we're gonna just make this battle a little bit more interesting and not fight him the easy, cheesy way. So I made sure I had a fire rod equipped before I went into this battle here. That way it'll increase a Freed's damage. Now, Biblos, he has an annoying attack. One, he has the Drain attack, which can steal hit points from you and give it to him. And he also has that Confuse spell. So, right now, we can end the Confuse spell by hitting RASAR with a physical attack from anybody. The only one I'd want to risk doing that with Lena, but Lena is too busy casting the Ifrit, so luckily RASAR hit himself, and that broke the confusion spell. Whenever your character is confused, a physical attack, if hit, it could be by the enemy or another character, will break the confusion spell. So we take out Biblos there, and he mentions that there's some other master evil who wants to break a seal. So we'll learn about that in a little bit, but we took out Biblos here, and now we can go talk with that stranger up there who's pretty much ignoring us. Hey buddy, what's up? Oh, he's scared, huh? Yeah, and it turns out it is Mid, Sid's grandson. So, yeah, he was so engrossed in his book, he didn't even notice us. Well, what's he doing down here in the library all by himself? And how did he get down here by himself? We had to fight that whole dungeon. Strong kid. Luckily, we don't have to go backwards through the dungeon because Mid has a shortcut here. We're going to pop out on this level where we can get some more healing. Woohoo! Which is good because that dungeon took a lot out of us, so. But Mid's wondering what we're doing here, so we're going to basically tell him the whole story about how his grandfather Sid is kind of all depressed because the crystals are breaking. He's blaming himself. But Mid thinks he's found a way that he can potentially cheer his grandpa up. And that is he's found this book that can potentially make the fire ship work without the fire crystal. And it basically is going to be steam powered. So he's learned about steam and how maybe we can make a steam engine to power the ship. And that'll allow us to potentially find the earth crystal and save it. So after a little bit of dialogue here, we convince Mid that, hey, you need to go talk with your grandfather and help get him out of the funk that he's in. And Mid, of course, being the nice, kind grandson that he is, he's like, yep, I'm going to do that, and he takes off. So, once again, he must be a strong kid, because he didn't need us to escort him through the ancient library there, and he ain't going to need us to escort him all the way to Karnak. He's going to do it all by himself, so too bad we can't get him to join our party. So, yeah, most of these guys, they pretty much telling you the same thing. There's another village there, Jackhole. We heard about that earlier. One guy in Karnak said that he was from Jackhole, and they have good weapons there, but he can't get back because the wall was blocking the way. But now the wall's broken, so we'll eventually be able to get to Jackhole a little bit later. So, these guys thought they might say something different, because now that we got a fleet, like, oh, you managed to free a fleet, woohoo, but nope, we don't say anything. These guys do tell us a little bit more stuff. You know, they just tell us that Mid went back to see his grandfather, so that gives us a clue on where we need to go. So we're going to head back to Karnak and once again go visit Sid up in the pub, where the second floor he's basically sitting depressed. So luckily no new enemies in this area. Once again, just for safety's sake, we may want to save when you're walking through the desert there and avoid as much desert terrain as possible to avoid that dome chimera. So, but it's just kind of a short walk, and luckily we get back there in time. We can always use the experience and the gold. And now we're back in Karnak. So let's go visit Mr. Sid in the pub. Let's see if Mid got back there yet. You already played that piano. If you didn't get it already yet, make sure you do. Especially if you're using the Bard class. That's one of your classes. That's unlocked in the Earth Crystal, but... And here's Mr. Sid. Once again, he's still depressed. It looks like Mid hasn't gotten here. But now he has, so yep, I guess he's just a little bit slower walking. So maybe he got stuck with some monsters. So, and he's basically berating his grandfather, saying like, hey, you know, like, you always taught me never to give up, and here you are, like, you need to practice what you preach. There's no reason for you to give up now, especially because we can still have some good to do. And that's what he's going to tell Sid, that, you know, hey, I found a way that we can do something to help these people. We can convert the fire ship into a steamship, and then that way we still have a chance to save the Earth Crystal. And so that's kind of going to get Sid out of his funk, and he's going to be like, yep, you're right, let's go make this conversion. And they're going to take off and do some science. Science for Milo with Arthur, Dote, and Doth. So, and this fire ship, this steamship that we're going to get, is eventually going to, of course, open up basically the whole world for us. So we're going to do a lot of exploring in some future episodes, because like I said, the ship's going to open up a whole bunch of new areas for us. So, not everywhere, because there's still going to be some places inland that we can't get to. But it'll open up a good variety of the world. And speaking of opening up, when we get to the fire ship, we're going to get a pretty long cutscene with Galuf, because his memory is going to start opening up. Basically, what happened is, remember back in the ship graveyard, when everyone was seeing like phantoms of their loved ones, that little girl appeared and said "Grandpa" to Galuf. And his amnesia, he didn't know who that girl was. He's like, "Who are you?" You know, he doesn't remember. But now seeing Sid and his grandson, who also has blonde hair like the granddaughter of Galuf, is kind of going to trigger some memories in Galuf. And we're going to get like a big, large exposition here from Galuf. It's not going to give his entire past, but it's going to give a good bit of his past and some more about what's going on, this evil spirit that the Queen mentioned, Queen Karnak mentioned about. So here's the big reveal. Apparently Galuf is an alien. Here he comes. He's going to basically say it. Yeah, he is not from this world. So here's once again the trigger point. It's the scene of the grandchild. Made him remember his own grandchild, that blonde-haired girl that we saw earlier in, like I said, the Siren area. So amazing, the little triggers that are happening. So yeah, it's pretty neat. They have that little callback there. You're you know, if you've been paying attention to the story, it's kind of nice. So and apparently it's very similar. The Sid and this girl Krill are very similar. They kind of, they're like a guiding force for their grandparents. So Krill, he remembers the name now. So they're going to quiz him on it, and he basically says right here that he's not from this world. Yep. I'm not from this world. And everyone's like, what? That's when he says that, you know, hey, he came from those meteorites. So apparently those meteorites are basically spaceships from another world. And this is where he mentions that big evil is called X-Death, an evil sorcerer who apparently was sealed in this world like 30 years ago, I think they said. And he was sealed with the power of the crystals. Now remember when we were going from Karnak, from Waltz to Karnak, we kind of drove by that, we saw that little area where there was those 3 rocks. Well, apparently, those are the seals of the crystals. Remember when we passed by that seal, there was only 2 rocks. That's because the wind crystal and the water crystal at that time were broken. So yeah, whenever a crystal breaks, if you go by that area again, you'll see that one of the rocks has disappeared. So if we pass by that area again, say we backtrack to the Karnak meteorite and warp back to Waltz, when we warped over, we'd fly past that forest again, and we now notice that there's only 1 rock remaining. Because, yeah, the game updates itself like that, so that's pretty neat. So, but now we just have to wake up Sid and Mid here. And once we wake them up, they'll tell us that, like, hey, the ship is ready to go, and we're going to entrust you with our ship, and it's up to you to go find the Earth Crystal and prevent it from cracking. And now we know why we have to prevent it from cracking, because otherwise, if it cracks, then evil warlord X-Death is going to come back, and with a name like that, yeah, we know he's a bad guy. So they're going to leave us here, and I'm going to leave you here at this point, and be sure to come back for next episode when we continue to explore the world. But before we head off to adventure in the world, let's further explore Maria's story here. So yeah, Maria, through all her physical therapy, was able to eventually learn how to hop a little bit. And while she couldn't hop forever, up to 10 hops, she did have this mobility cart that allowed her to walk with just her front legs. And she basically lived a long, happy life for the rest of her life, loved and cared for. So it just goes to show that, Rabbit and Small Animal Rescue takes care of even, the most hurt animals. So it's good charity support, and if you want to support them, There's a link in the video description. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.